Hey, it's the Chief bonding with board games and RPGs. We're back in right as the road trip's beginning. Now, I was thinking of one thing in between episodes, and that is Edic, who's running a ham radio. He's the younger brother of Casimir, has to be intrigued with these Russian guys who are setting up and going to be riding with Casimir and communicating. And I'm imagining that whether or not there's a language barrier, maybe they can work something through. There's a little bit of Polish known by the Russians. I could see it at least being explained in some form or fashion that Edic loves radios. So I want to see, is he going to interact with him in any way? I don't even know if a ham radio would have the ability to communicate with these Russians further down the line. I would think it would be possible that they would also know how to bounce signals around the stratosphere, but I wanted to go 50-50. They may not be interested in talking to a young Polish kid, even if he is a radio nerd. So 50-50, 50 or less, yes, they're going to communicate, and they're going to be able to maybe even work out a frequency. 79. So, no. It would have been nice if they could have stayed in communication, and I was thinking Edic might be able to show some ability there. But a 79 is clear. Whatever's going on, I don't think the Russian commo guys are interested in talking with a Polish child about radios, which is fine. So we'll move forward. I had to check and see. And as they leave, I think they're going to stay together as they get, the base is kind of sitting on the outskirts or the far east part of town anyway. To move through, they have Zajak's friendship, but I'm not sure they want to broadcast that they're leaving with these guys. I would imagine Zajak would know anyway, but I think until they get on the road, they're not going to send those Russians out further. It'd be better to have that BTR with the heavy gun and the other armored vehicle kind of protecting these guys until they get out of the limits of Gniezno. So I've taken out the urban ops stuff. This is going to be just, is there any kind of encounter as they leave the road? And I'm going to use these cards a lot. Remember, this is going to be point to point, and the very first city they're moving to is Trezmezno. That's where they're headed to first. And we'll kind of deal with each of these locations using the mythic chart or some of these cards just to see what we're running into. But I'll do a random event in between, and we'll also work out time and how long it's taking. I don't think they'll be rushing this, though. Again, we're headed to the Vistula. All right, first random event just as we're exiting Gniezno. We've got a 4 of hearts, the smell of victory. A dozen car wrecks all burn out with charred corpses inside. The cars were hit by a napalm attack some weeks or months earlier. Okay, we're going to call it months. The corpses in the cars are such a depressing sight that it causes 1 point of stress. The wrecks are beyond repair, but they can be scavenged for parts. There's plenty of scrap around. Nah. So 2 things are going to happen here. 1, nobody in my party is going to be overly stressed by seeing a napalm-wrecked vehicle 2 months ago. I don't buy that this is going to cause stress. This is a road event, day or night. We are on the road. But I've got to go to the mythic for this. I can't see it causing the Spetsnaz any stress at all, and I can't see it doing anything to Krieg or even McGiffin. If it does, then I'm going to assume it's maybe something newer and not a month old. But let's check first. So I think it's very unlikely this would cause stress. And if it does, that means 25% chance it does. If it does, then we're going to know that this is more recent. But first, 25% chance 83. Yeah, no problem here at all. As they drive past this napalmed vehicle, I think Casimir eyeballs it a little bit, thinking there's a couple things I could have used there. Who knows what it is, but Krieg, McGiffin, Sanchez, the Spetsnaz, there's nothing here. There's no stress here either. This is just a piece of war. This does nothing to our guys, so they're not taking any stress. All right, let me get this shuffled up. We've exited out of town, so all right, some areas that were napalmed. As we get outside of town, now we're on I-15. They hold up, make sure all the radios are linked in. You got a Russian in each vehicle, 2 in the Toyota. Casimir is with them. One of the Russians is driving. So Casimir has his weapon, and they're going to lead off, staying in radio communication. We'll probably do some checks to make sure that holds, but it should. I think they would play their distances, but if we get into terrain, it could be blocked. So we're going to have the BTR-80 hold up a little bit, and Krieg is our knowledge man. He's the one that knows where the gold is, Warsaw, and where it is in Warsaw, and he hasn't given exactly where it is yet because he doesn't trust anybody else. So he's told them repeatedly, once we start to get near the banks of Warsaw, I will let the ship captain know exactly where to go. And once we hit land, I'll let everybody else know exactly where we got to go. And I think Vladimir brought it up a couple times. Yeah, but what if you get hurt? He said, well, then you don't get any gold. So they're very encouraged to keep him safe to make this work. On that note, once they start off, the BTR-80 will lead with its heavier gun, and it will kind of play protection on Krieg's vehicle as they move forward. But we are going to step in with Casimir and a couple Russian commo guys. Everybody's just going to have some AK-47s. Nothing major here, but they're not planning on trying to be threats or anything. So we're going to do a lot of recon rolls here. But they're not even trying to be stealthy. They're just riding down the road. So maybe recon isn't the way to go. Maybe we're back to some encounters as we move. Let's do that. We won't go with that. I'm going to go with another open road card flip, and then we will be approaching the streets of Trzmizno, and on that one we will end up, that'll probably be a whole nother episode where they're going to figure out, do they drive through town or around? That's what we'll do. So this show is going to, we'll see how far we go. So first, random event, we're on the road, we're just with Casimir, with a Russian driver, they're in a Toyota pickup truck, no heavy guns or anything. What do they run across? Prisoners of war. It is a road action, day or even off-road. This is a King of Spades. A Soviet convoy, led by a T-72 tank. It says half tank. T-72 tank. Oh, it's armed with heat rounds, half a tank of fuel, 1 reload for their heavy machine gun. Okay. It's followed by a GAS, that's the vehicle truck, that carries a dozen U.S. prisoners of war, which are in pretty bad shape. The Soviets will attack the PCs if they are spotted. Well, they probably won't hear because these are Russians. But I guess they wouldn't want to be too obvious with their vehicles. So this is good, though. The POWs are starving and sleep deprived. I'm not sure Casimir fully cares, and will be very grateful if set free. Several of the prisoners are sick from typhoid fever. They have no gear. I don't think Krieg's going to be interested in typhoid fever people. All right, first question is, do these Russians spot this first? These are fairly just regular troops. They're in their car, but a T-72 moving prisoners would make a whole lot of noise. Even seems kind of odd so early and in this area, but we're going to roll with it. I'm going to think it is actually very likely just due to the noise alone. I think one of the Russians would pick up that it even sounds like a T-72, but that's an 85% chance. 13. So yes, 16 or lower is a hard yes. So yes, they're rolling forward, not in a very rapid speed, windows down, and the Russian driver says he picks up, hey, in Russian, but he says, I hear a T-72, and it sounds like it's moving, and you can kind of hear those tracks clinking and clinking and clinking. Immediately on the radio, letting Vladislav know, along with Krieg. I think they would say, okay, well, you can hear it. Can you get eyes on? They want to know what direction are they moving in. So the technicals pulled off to the road. They send Casimir out. Perfect. Yeah, send a Polish kid out. Although, well, one Russian will go with him as well. So this will be a recon roll. Where is Casimir's sheet? All right, we've got Casimir on Recon Intelligence C, Recon B. So we've got a 10-sided die and an 8-sided die. All right, so this will be the recon roll. They're moving together. I think the Russian, rather than roll, I don't have the Russian fully rolled up. They're just kind of general commo guys. So I may have to remedy that. I think being that the Russian recognized the vehicle, I'm going to upgrade each of these dice once, just showing that they're both moving up. So I'm going to move to a 12-sided die, and then the 8 will go to the 10-sided die. And not to mention, a T-72 makes a lot of noise, so they've got quite the ability to kind of sneak up and get eyes on. I don't think it's going to be a problem, but we will see. Recon roll for both is, yeah, we have an 11 with 2 successes and a 1, which would be a problem, but we're not going to push it. So we have 2 successes. They get all that information from the card. They can see it's the T-72, it's the like the Russian utility vehicle, and they've got a bunch of what appears to be U.S. prisoners who even look ill. They get back, they report, they give their direction, and it's a real quick understanding that Krieg doesn't care. I think McGiffin is probably a little concerned, but there's absolutely nothing he could do here. They're not going to go tangle with a T-72 and a bunch of Russians in order to free sick U.S. prisoners. I think I'll put, would it be a stress on McGiffin? That's a possibility, but I don't, he's a realist. They're not going to be able to free them. And I can't see you convincing a bunch of Spetsnaz to fire on Russians. I mean, I just don't think, as much as McGiffin won't like the situation, I think it's impossible that this would cause him stress. I don't think he would like it, but I don't think it's going to stress him. But 5% chance doesn't give McGiffin 31. No, McGiffin just realizes, you know, it's unfortunate, but there's no way you're going to get this Russians to do anything here. They're definitely not going to take a hostile act. And there's nothing they could do to feed these guys or anything, not to mention they're sick. So no problem with stress for McGiffin. Krieg doesn't care at all. I think Sanchez, you know, again, hey, sad situation. So the bigger issue is, how do they dance around it? Meaning they're not going to be able to go through this way. They're going to have to deviate. To me, that means a side road. So first, does that mean they have to take a side road in some fashion? 50-50? 84. No. Vladislav comes up and says, now you don't want to mess around. You don't want to mess around trying to skirt town. You're going to run into more problems. So what would Vladislav do? I think he would just say, wait. You're going to have the Russian and Casimir keep a very loose eye on that area and see as these Russians move out, make sure they don't suddenly stop and camp, bivouac or whatever. And they're going to hold where they are and just let things move through. So recon, they're going to keep their eyes on them real quick. Do the vehicles continue to move out of the location? 50-50. 99. No. And it's a hard no. So it's exactly what we worried about. They end up getting to an area not too far. Casimir and the Russians see them. They wind down their engine. They can see them kind of crowding these U.S. troops into an area. And what would it be? Some kind of parking lot or something, and training machine guns on them. I don't think they're going to kill them. This is a hard no, though. Well, what do they do? So they're stopping. They're blocking up the road for us now. So they are 54. Ooh, it's kill. Well, we'll see what the other one is. All right. Well, maybe they're just going to machine gun these guys right there. Jeez. Dark. 86. 86 is kill hope. Well, that's better. So rather than kill them, they're killing hope. I'm going to roll again. That could have been much worse. Could have been gruesome. 4 is fight. Uh-oh. It doesn't mean we're fighting. It might mean they're trying to fight, or somebody is. 95. Nature. Fight nature. Well, I think that's as they stop and they get herded into like a parking lot, they're put under guard. I think killing hope and fighting nature would be McGiffin thinking, can we at least sneak in at night and get them out of there? Obviously, it's bugging him a little bit. I know he said he's not taking stress. I think they're meeting with Vladislav. He says, no way. Again, you don't even want to be around these guys. They look like they've got typhoid. They're coughing. They're hacking. They probably won't be able to survive much on their own anyway. And I'm not firing on Russian troops, says Vladislav. So, kill hope, fight nature. They're blocking up the path. The only key would be, can we circle around? We've already heard from Vladislav we can't. He said this way through town, there's got to be another way around. Yeah, maybe fight nature is going off-road. Fighting the nature of not being on the road, and killing hope is that those U.S. prisoners, they're on their own. That makes sense. So there may not be a road that Vladislav thinks is good to get around this, but surely there's some off-road that they could do, which takes us right back to recon. Here's Casimir and the Russian again. We're again sitting with that. I'll roll the exact same dice. They're working their way around on foot. We've got the Polish, we've got the Russian. They're going to see, is there a way we can skirt where they're parked far enough back that there wouldn't be able to be heard? Get around this area and bypass this whole T-72. So we need a success. Oh, 6-4. So we have just a single success. So the Russian, I'll get a name for him later, and Casimir on foot, they walk out a route that they think would be feasible. Takes them better part of, I think, 2 hours on foot, cautiously moving where they know the vehicles could get through off-road. They scout it, they get back, they report their success, and it's far enough back that the diesel of the BTR 80 or the armored car are not going to alert the Russian tank, which is sitting there idling anyway. Would they idle? Probably not. They would shut their engine down, not waste their fuel. But they're far enough back that they wouldn't be able to hear it. They've backed off with their recon. They had a great successful recon, so we're going to attempt a bypass. We're going to attempt bypassing. I want to do this with a fate chart. Doesn't necessarily mean that the Russians would pick up, but they could. So I think it's probably somewhat likely with the successful recon that they'll link up the BTR 80, the armored car that Krieg's in. They come up, they link up with the Russians, and now they're going to drive it's almost like a chain of all 3 cars as they lead them through their path on foot. Casimir is out on foot, leading them through the path that he and the Russian worked out. I think that moves it up to likely that it's going to work. But, why am I holding these? We're going to do this on the fate chart. So 75% chance with the work that's been done that this is going to successfully bypass at least this core issue of where the Russian problem is. 31. So yes, they needed a 75 or less to be successful. They've skirted. It doesn't mean they've completely left town. Maybe it is. But they've skirted off-road, spent the entire day doing it, very slow moving, and they've skirted around that Russian tank and those prisoners and gotten back on the road. I think we're going to continue a little bit further down the road, and then the day is shot, and we're going to get off-road and make camp. So I want to pull one more random event card. We've skirted the Russian tank. As we're moving, again, we're back on Highway 50. We've bypassed the town of, I keep forgetting, Trezmizno. We're moving and we're going to camp. So let's see what we find. 5 of diamonds. It says final rest. This is a road event, day or night. It is still day. We're not going to travel at night. We've come across an area that's showing a very large, what looks to be like a tactical nuke strike. Okay. 3d6 times 10 meters wide. Okay. 3d6 times 10. How big? 10 times 10. So 100 meters wide. Quite a big crater. All right. So it's messed up the road. Let's see. What does it say here? Oh, and 1/5 is deep. Okay. Debris is everywhere. We could scrounge for +2. No need. We got exactly what we need. We're actually sitting very well for Twilight 2000. Normally you're trying to find stuff all over the place. We're good. We're packing enough fuel to get us to the Vistula and extra, and then to get back. Not saying we wouldn't mind fuel if we come across it, though. Oh, there's a corpse of a soldier with an assault rifle, lies at the bottom of the area twice. No, we're not going in. Now, radiation would be all throughout the area, though. An area twice as wide as the crater is radioactive, 1 rad per stretch to pass. A vehicle needs to go off-road and lose 1 hex of movement this shift before it can continue. No problem with that at all. We're up and ready for that. Krieg had some Geiger counters to pick up radiation, especially where we're going, and we're checking it all the time. It starts ding, 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 picking up, and well, I think as we got back on the road, it wouldn't be Krieg picking it up. It would have been Casimir and the Russians. Yeah. So, are they exposed to a little bit from where they see it? I think that's a 50-50. 79. No. Okay. So 50 or less, they would have gotten a little bit of exposure to this radiation. They must have come up over a rise, and they can see this very large cratered area. It's messing with the road. They're radioed back. Vladislav, Krieg, McGiffin, they all say, well, hey, we're looking to get off-road anyway. We're not going anywhere near that. Bypass around. We'll find an area off-road where we can camp. And I bet you we're not going to get too much activity over here with that around. They do talk about using the Geiger counters, make sure they stay out of a radiation zone. That makes a lot of sense to me. All right, they found their wooded area. They've parked their vehicles in a tactical manner. The woods are just good for concealment. However, they will put out a watch over the night. They'll rotate their watch. And the general feel from everybody there is that with this radiation zone, which they are not in due to their Geiger counters, that there's probably not a lot of activity around here. But again, they're putting out a watch. I think there's a 25% chance that something could kick up at some point during the night, but we will see. And 53, no. There is no events that happen at all in the evening, even though they had watch. When we come back, they will be finishing their breakfast in the next episode, and they will begin their trip to the very next road along this chain, which is Strefelno along Highway 15. So we will again see what happens. Chief, bonding with board games and RPGs.